Welcome back. And so, with popular support from northern governors or southern governors for the deployment of state police to tackle the very big concern of insecurity in Nigeria, the bigger question is, will they backtalk with action by, ensuring the availability of the requisite resources to fund state police? Now, organization is already thinking ahead of what may come out of the increase in support for state police with a report on what the actual cost of state policing will be in the 36 states of the Federation and in the Federal Capital Territory. And so we want to unpack that report for you this morning. And joining us is the founder of DataFight, Mr. Joshua Oluwafemi, who joins us virtually on the program this morning. Mr. Oluwafemi, good morning, and thank you for joining us on the Morning Brief.
Good morning, and thanks for having me.
Now, we have taken a bit of time to look at your report. And what is interesting, in the graphic part where you break down per population the requirement of state policing, that is required for, the population in each state of the Federation. But let's get to some of the concerns of Nigerians, first of all, and which has shaped the debate on state policing over the last decade. And that is the concern that, the executives may abuse state policing, particularly during elections. Now, for you, I'd like you to highlight the part in your report that addresses that. Do the benefits outweigh the costs before we begin to look at the financial implications?
Yes, I think the benefit outweighs the cost in terms of having, states manage the policing of their, of their, should I call it, geographical space or jurisdiction. And the reason is, as you would also find in the report, this is something that we've had before, where you used to have the regional policing before the 1963, constitution made everything sort of central or unitary, if you like, in terms of policing and the rest of it. And also, if you look at the current situation in the country, where most of the states governors or state government are asking that they would be able to do better if they weren't getting, if the IG or the head of the police force isn't getting instruction from the central to know what to do. So I think generally the state is able to determine based on its population, based on its land mass or even land size, what is good enough for them. However, which is what our report is trying to show, is that there are many other things that the state government already can manage on their own, and we've not seen the governance of those things done in the proper way, right? As simple as education, health, water, resources, employment for the young people in their states are challenges that they've not been able to show any fiscal planning or design for. And when they start to ask for the policing, which is even much more, cost intensive, if you like, or capital intensive, if you like, what is it that they are showing to do? And that's why we use the case study of a state in the Southwest that has tried before, to manage its police. And you could see that even if you were to do basic mathematics, none of it 2,000 police officers earned up to 60,000 annually for running the state police.
And so your report breaks down per population, a number of officers per 100,000. So I would like you to get into the cost aspect now. But as you do that, why per 100,000?
It's sort of the global standard, right? To say you sort of look at a number of people within the population that you should assign a police officer to, something that's enough for them to patrol, or something that is enough for them to manage or police. So it's like a global standard, and you will see we give three options from 120 officers per 100,000 to even 311 officers per 100,000. So it's like a global standard, or if you like, recommendation that you should have. And you will see that even either you're using 120 officers per 100,000, or you're doing 275 per 100,000, or even 311 per 100,000, it is still also a function of the land size. There are local government. I was having a conversation with a senior colleague. There are local governments in Nigeria that are bigger than an entire state. So if we're even using the number of land size, you may not be doing justice. So it's better you do the number of people within that local government. So you would have a situation where a local government would just have much more because of size, even though there are less number of people than you would have in Lagos State for those people. So it's just generally global standard. And we're saying if that is the case, you see that what even the entire country has for, I think the country has roughly about 300,000 to 400,000 police officers. And if you look at it, that is too low, and something that you can put a lot of pressure on the federal government to put much more. But if you were to go at the state level, and the state will also then calculate the cost of policing, buying equipment, paying salaries, training, and all of the other necessary infrastructure that is needed to run an effective police, then you will know that we still have a long way to go, whether at the state level or at the federal level. Some are even saying we need a local government police.
So I'm wondering what's your proposal. I can tell you for free, based on numbers that I like to follow. And yesterday, if you listen to General Christopher Musa, although he was talking extensively about the military, and the military's defense is quite expensive, and that is very true. Whether it's guns you want to buy, any form of military gadgets, they are not cheap, and they are not easily accessible. So that is true across all levels, no matter how small that level is, whether it's even if it's a local government police in that sense. So I'm saying that I can almost guarantee that some states will struggle, or a lot of states. The longest time, we've had incidents of people owing salaries, and now that has improved to a large extent because of revenue record in terms of Naira terms of FAC allocations. So let's say that maybe 40 to 50, or I dare to say maybe 60 to 65% of the state won't be able to fund their state police adequately. That's the operative word here, adequately. What are the options available here?
I mean, it's pretty much the question that we're throwing at the state governments that are agitating that. You really need to ask yourself whether the challenge is not to strengthen what exists, or whether you want to look at various options. One of the options that we agitated for is to have some level of state police's trust fund, where you have you're pulling a certain amount from both what the budget is able to provide with what citizens within the state or corporate sector contribution to that pause to run your state policing can do. That's one option. The other option is to also see whether from the FAC allocation or the federal the federation allocation to the state, there are specific amount that is given to the policing. That is even if it goes through in the way that the current federal government is thinking to allow state policing to go through. Because what is clear is you may not be able to find, like you already mentioned, I don't think there's any one solution beyond the fact that citizens need to really ask, demand that the cost is clear. and where to generate the money is also very clear for all the state. Our solution is you need to combine fiscal contribution. You need to also look at state policing trust fund as another option, or from the federal for those who the need is really strong. That the federal is also contributing to that in some way, or because you have to look at a lot of governance issues. The FARC is still central, which means that, and as we've seen, that state fiscality in the country is still very weak. And if the FARC is not, sizable enough for you to now even put into education, health, and other social infrastructure, how much can you give to we already know what has happened to things like, security vote of state government. We already know what has happened to even all the trucks or equipment that are being donated by state government to the Nigerian Federal Police, as it was. So there's a lot of accountability governance issue that needs to be sorted first before anyone just say in the name of we want to manage the safety and security of our state. Go ahead with it. And I think there's also the balance for those who they can still manage it. I don't think you should just join the bandwagon or Lagos State is able to do it, or your state wants to try it, or Plateau State is trying to do it, and go ahead with it, because there is a lot more that is required in policing this. I mean, we don't even know the number of police stations that are in Nigeria. There's no data available to tell us. The data is not open. Maybe that's what I wanted to say. You don't have an open data that tells you where in every point the police stations are. And you can imagine when you then take that to the state level, if we wouldn't be continuing in the same issue, or with the same issue.
It's a quite tricky situation, but I think it's one that we must resolve once and for all. And I want to reference again the number of police per 100,000 people for Nigeria is 120 police officers to 100,000 people. And as you said, the global standard is 311. That's more than ×2. And even in sub-Saharan Africa, it is 275. That's well over ×2 again of what we have in Nigeria. So we're below par when it even comes to manpower on the one hand. Talk more funding and how much resources we put into that. So yeah, there you have it. But something that you mentioned in that report also is the cost of paying ransom to Nigerians and Nigeria. I think a 2024 estimate put it at trillions of naira, and I'm just going to get that. So in terms of the cost, what it is costing us already, it is clear that we are paying a lot for insecurity, not as a government now, but as a people. So I want you to break it down. If we have just less than 400,000 police officers in Nigeria, if you do an average per state plus the FCT, that's about 10,000. Again, it is below the average. But what cost would you put to a state running state police? I know that you did for Amotekun, you tried to do some sort of prorating. If Oyo State is spending 1.3 billion naira per month on Amotekun, then what would it cost? So can you give us maybe a round estimation of what it will cost a state to run state police?
I'm not going to sit down here and say that my mathematics will be accurate in any way. What we're even just showing is salary, right? Yeah. Just for Amotekun, right? What you have there is less than 60,000 naira to pay the salary of a police officer with the amount that they've tried to budget for it. And if we're looking at a population as simple as the population of Osun State, which is just round, I always like not to discuss the population of Nigeria because the numbers are not something that we believe or trust identify as correct. But if you take a 4.2 to 4.5 people in Osun State, and you are even using the 275 officers, and they're going at, I think, about 11,000 to 12,000 police officers that are needed. If you put the cost of one, of kitting a police officer, paying the salary of a police officer, if you put all of that to just roughly about 3 million naira per annum, 3 million naira per annum as an individual police officer, which means you pay them roughly, the minimum wage is 100,000, you pay them, or 70,000, you pay them roughly about 170, 150,000, and then you buy all the necessary kits, you get them a gun, if necessary, or all the necessary things that you needed. Let's say you put $1 million on every police officer, you can run the number. But I don't think that if the cost of managing the police officer is not up to $1 million to $2 million, any state is ready to do any business. And we can talk about breaking it down, and we can get a police officer to say, what does it cost to patrol your community, the cost of fueling, there's many of the police stations don't even have a computer, no mobile phone, that is state owned, that is state managed. There are personal phones that are being used. You have to buy credit. You need to put their data in the cloud. There's an entire identity issue that the guy who was a police officer is going after, disappears, and there is no surveillance camera to know who it was that you were going after. And you are also going as a police officer, and your family is also living in that same community, and you don't even know what's going to happen. So there's a lot of infrastructural challenges. But I would say, let's even start with $2 million per officer, and then you multiply it by the number of officers that are needed per state, and see whether we are ready for anything, even if we've spent that on any other officer in the country.
And the 2 million doesn't include salaries, just to kit them, just to give them what they need appropriately.
Get every police officer running the state annually.
So if we're to do 2-3 million for 10,000, which is below par, again, I must say, because that's the 120 to 100,000 people, then you'll see that you have to set aside just 30 billion naira, right, just for the kitting. We're not talking salaries, we're not talking running costs and other infrastructure. So clearly, this is something that they must sit down and really map out. But I saw something interesting in that report about VIP protection and how a lot of things are still shrouded in secrecy. So do you foresee some sort of contention between organized police, the structure as it is now, and the state governments when they say, okay, open your books, let us see how much you're even getting from other sources? Because the police actually generates revenue as they are right now.
I mean, we can talk about accountability, we can talk about transparency, right? In terms of how much they make. But trust me, if you visited the police station, the question should be what they generate. Do they use it to even maintain the police station, right? You can't even go to the counter sometimes because the odor that is coming from the cell gets to you from the gate, right? And that's just buying pretty much, the disinfectant or, the things that will keep the place clean. You don't have 24-hour electricity in most of these places, right? So I will sit here and talk about how much they generate as to think that will resolve the challenge that we are having. Yes, there is need for accountability. There is need to even why do you need a VIP police in the first place? Every other person now can get a police officer just to drive them from, the airport to their house. I remember going to a state, and even the state government, helping us with state police to drive us to the state house. And I'm like, okay, we're just coming for a training, but it tells you the level of challenge that we're having as a country, that even people can't do a short. So for me, it's yes, there is need for that money to be accounted for, but there are bigger things to account for. Let's even know first where's the location of all the police stations in Nigeria. They will know how much we want to get from the IG or from the state commissioner of police or from the divisional police head. We don't know where they are. I don't know the number of police stations that are in the FCT where I live, or even in my state, which is the state of concern for or the case study in our report.
Perhaps we could project what an accurate figure would be on the cost of state police, if we knew the exact number of, a police force that we require, maybe for each state, or on the average for Nigeria itself. Your report captures, the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, saying currently we have about 371,000 strong force. And another report cited in your report also says Nigeria needs to recruit about 30,000 policemen every year over the next 5 years in order to reach the accurate figure of state policing that we require. So if you could project that per state, in terms of the population size of Nigeria, this is the number of police force that we require to police Kano State, for instance, Lagos. Those are the leading states in terms of population. So what would it look like in terms of cost per state to fund state police?
I think I've said it already. There are a lot of dynamics to it, right? The level of crime, the land size in terms of population, dispersion of people in various places. Like I mentioned before, you can't. I don't want us to put a number to it and just say, okay, Lagos State will need X billions of naira. Right, there's an entire training that needs to be done for the police, and that money that needs to just get them to run, to get the right police officers. I'm looking out for the ones that have tried to do something, and how much they spend on training, right? How much they even spend on constructing the model police stations in the country. I mean, there are a lot. I think the most important thing is to get every state to sit down and count the cost of what they are requesting for. Just the same way they can't tell you how much they need to run the educational system, the health system, right? We've tried to do the health insurance at state level, and most of the states can't even put their own contribution to what the federal government is trying to contribute for all of this. So it's a question of governance that is not done by counting the cost of whatever they want to do. I can sit here and say, Lagos State would need about 20 trillion to run its state police at 311 police officers per 100,000 people. But you and I know that the number of people in Lagos State, the level of crime, the socioeconomic activities in that state can be compared to what you have in Kano, even though they have similar population size, because the economic activities in Lagos, where you have the port, where you have both the airport, the seaport, and of course, even the train system is even more. It's it borders, there's also a land border, just the same way, Kano also is a sub-Sahara, trade route. So there are a lot of other dynamics that needs to come in before you place a number to it. But the geography, the crime, or if you like, safety, security dynamics need to all come together to count. We wouldn't say that we've done the all work that needs to be done, but we're trying to just say, let's use the case studies of those who have attempted it in the Southwest and see that they are not ready. And if they want to do more than the political, should I say the political purpose of state policing, then it means that we also need to look at the, fiscal, or if you like, the socioeconomic dimension to doing it. Sorry, I'm not sure I give you a number still.
Well, those variables are very important. And if, according to your report, the Oyo State government spent an annual average of 1.38 billion naira to take care of 2,000 strong Amotekun Corps. Now you can do the mathematics and estimate what it would require to fund a 10,000 strong state police. But more importantly, it's the commitment. Maybe we could get the trillions deployed to policing added to what each state requires, in terms of allocation by dividing that fund to all the 36 states of the Federation. But it's a very apt idea coming at a particular point in time, and we hope that, this is taking up. We'd like to thank you very much for coming on the program. We've been talking with Mr. Joshua Oluwafemi, the founder, DataFight. Thank you for your time on the program.
Thank you for having me.
And there's more to come as far as the security conversation is concerned. This time we'll be looking at Kaduna State, and it's an important one with the appointment of the new Minister of Defense. Stay with us for this next one. We'll be right back.